If you would like to know more about Nigeria's first military coup, you can get this book, A Carnage Before Dawn. The link is on our bio. Dimka and his fellow coup plotters made one fatal mistake on the morning of February 13, 1976. Even though they succeeded in killing General Murtala Muhammed, the head of state, they failed to eliminate his deputy, Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo. That mistake would make the rebellion an abortive coup. So, how did Obasanjo escape when others were killed? We shall find out in this episode. The morning of Friday, February 13, 1976 began like any other working day in Lagos. General Murtala Muhammed, Nigeria's military head of state, set out early for the office. True to his habit, he traveled without a security convoy. Just a black Mercedes-Benz, his aide-de-camp, Lieutenant Akintunde Akinshehinwa, and his driver, Sergeant Adamu Michika. It was a routine that reflected the general's confidence and simplicity. That routine would cost him his life. As the car slowed near the junction by the Federal Secretariat in Ikoyi, armed men approached calmly, almost casually. There was no warning, no chase, no attempt to block the road. Within seconds, the vehicle was sprayed with bullets at close range. The head of state, his ADC and his driver were all killed on the spot. One of the most decisive leaders Nigeria had known was gone. News of the assassination spread quickly through military circles. Once Murtala's death was confirmed, Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka Dimka moved into action. Having reportedly spent much of the night drinking champagne with a small group of associates, Dimka hurried to the British High Commission around 8 a.m. There, he asked to be put in contact with former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, who was living in Britain. According to later accounts, Dimka sent word for Gowon to travel to Togo and wait for further instructions. From the High Commission, Dimka returned to Ikoyi to seize Radio Nigeria, the most important mouthpiece of authority in the country. With the help of about 6 men, he took control of the station. Martial music soon filled the airwaves, deliberately chosen to signal that the military was once again in charge. A civilian staff member, Abdulkarim Zakari, who had allegedly been informed ahead of time, played a role in selecting the music that accompanied the coup broadcast. While Dimka was announcing a new order to the nation, other teams were carrying out deadly assignments across the country. Key figures in the regime were marked for elimination. Among them were Lieutenant General Theophilus Yakubu Danjuma, the Chief of Staff of the Nigerian Army, and Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo, the Chief of Staff at Supreme Headquarters. Outside the barracks, the country reacted quickly. University students in Lagos, Ibadan, and other cities poured into the streets to protest the coup. As rumors spread that Dimka had visited the British High Commission on the morning of the assassination, anger boiled over. Some students attacked American and British establishments in Lagos, convinced that foreign hands were somehow involved. Inside the military, the tide was already turning against the coup plotters. General Danjuma, who had survived an attempt on his life, quickly took charge from a temporary base at Bonny Camp. On hearing the radio announcement, Danjuma held a brief but crucial war council and ordered Colonel Ibrahim Babangida to Ikeja cantonment to secure armored vehicles. From there, he drove to Radio Nigeria. At the radio station, Babangida came face to face with Dimka, who happened to be a close friend. In a moment heavy with irony, Dimka jokingly asked whether Babangida had come to play Chukwuma and Nwawu with him, a reference to the failed negotiations of January 1966 between Major Patrick Chukwuma Nzeogu and Colonel Conrad Nwawu during Nigeria's first coup. Uncomfortable with the armored vehicles parked outside, Dimka asked that they be moved away from the building. What Dimka did not know was that Babangida was not there to negotiate. Danjuma's orders were clear: stop the broadcast by any means necessary, even if it meant shelling the station. Babangida reported back that the coup announcement was still going on and that he had spoken with Dimka. Danjuma was astonished. He immediately repeated his orders. Soon after, gunfire erupted around Radio Nigeria. A short but intense firefight, reportedly led by Major Chris Ugokwe, forced the coup plotters to flee. As bullets flew, Dimka simply turned and walked away. He drove through several checkpoints, slipping past soldiers who were meant to securing the area, and vanished from Lagos. His escape shocked the public and fueled rumors that he had received help from within the system. Dimka first made his way to Jos, then traveled on to Abakaliki. There, days later, his luck finally ran out. He was arrested by the police while in company of a woman. By the end of that day, the Dimka coup had failed, but not before it claimed the life of General Murtala Muhammed and changed the course of the nation forever. So, how did Obasanjo escape? Olusegun Obasanjo was supposed to be on the road early that Friday morning. As Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters, his routine was well known, and that made him a prime target. But history turned on something as ordinary as a baby. According to Obasanjo himself, Brigadier Olubajowa paid him an early visit to ask him permission to name his child after him. The visit delayed Obasanjo just long enough to keep him off the road at the moment the assassins struck elsewhere in Lagos. That delay saved his life. As reports of gunfire and confusion began to filter in, Obasanjo immediately realized that something was terribly wrong. Rather than drive straight into danger, he switched to what he later described as an escape and evasion mode. He quietly withdrew from public view and made his way to Ikoyi, where he stayed at the house of a trusted civilian friend. From there, he spent most of the day listening, watching, and making discreet phone calls, trying to understand who was in control and who was not. Meanwhile, death was haunting him. Along Awolowo Road in Lagos, a hit squad lay in wait for Obasanjo's car. But in a twist that still raises questions today, they attacked the wrong vehicle. The assassins mistook another senior officer, Colonel Dumuje, for Obasanjo and opened fire. Dumuje was badly injured, but survived. How such a mistake could happen has never been fully explained. A Lieutenant General's official car would normally carry a number plate marked with 3 stars, clearly identifying its occupants. This has led to speculation ever since. Was Dumuje traveling in Obasanjo's car, or were the attackers careless, confused, or possibly drunk? No definitive answers have ever emerged. What is clear is that Obasanjo slipped through a deadly net that had been carefully laid for him. As the coup collapsed and loyal forces regained control, Obasanjo finally emerged from hiding. With General Murtala dead and the rebellion crushed, power naturally fell into his hands. By the end of the day, the man who had narrowly escaped assassination was Nigeria's new head of state. In the aftermath, investigators uncovered evidence suggesting that Dimka had planned to go much further. Documents and tapes reportedly found at the radio station indicated that he had prepared a second speech, one he was not able to deliver. Instead, the new Obasanjo-led government released an official statement explaining what it said were the motives behind the failed coup. According to the regime, the plotters believed that Murtala Muhammed's government was steering Nigeria towards communism and abandoning its non-aligned foreign policy. They were unhappy with the appointment of Theophilus Danjuma as Chief of Army Staff and opposed recent promotions within the army. They also sought to return General Yakubu Gowon to power and wanted all former military governors and retired civil servants reinstated. Whether these claims fully captured the plotters' intentions remains debated, but they became the official narrative of the Nigerian state. To honor the fallen head of state, Obasanjo declared 7 days of national mourning. Flags across the country were ordered to fly at half-mast. Nigeria grieved, but it also moved on under a new leader who had survived by chance, caution, and timing, and whose escape on that February morning would shape the country's history for years to come. The Dimka Coup of February 13, 1976 was crushed within hours, but its aftermath would follow Nigeria for decades. It exposed how fragile power truly was, how a single delay, a wrong turn, or a mistaken identity could decide who lived, who died, and who ruled. Murtala Muhammed fell to bullets at a quiet junction. Olusegun Obasanjo survived by chance, and by evening, he was head of state. However, survival came at a price. The same military system that lifted Obasanjo to power was also one that never forgot, never forgave, and never truly rested. Coups were not just events, they were habits of thought. Every promotion bred suspicion, every decision created enemies, and every former ruler remained in the eyes of the barracks a potential threat. Obasanjo would hand over power to civilians on October 1, 1979 and step away from authority, but power never truly stepped away from him. Nearly 20 years later, under the dark and paranoid rule of General Sani Abacha, the situation changed. The man who had escaped death in 1976 was now accused of planning a coup. This time, as a civilian, the roles had reversed. The survivor became the suspect. In March 1995, Obasanjo was accused of plotting a coup against Abacha and put on trial. He would spend the next 3 years in prison. You can check out the full story in our next episode.